Good morning, friends. Happy Tuesday. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about holes today and the expectations for that and some of the things that we need to be looking for the next couple chapters and for the chapters that we've read. So I just want to talk about first chapters 16 through 18, which you just finished reading and I have up on the screen. So there's a couple of things that are really interesting. And I wanted you, if you were on the Zoom call with us yesterday, we talked about a little bit. And one of those things was how Stanley has changed over time, which is something we really see starting kind of now. At the beginning of the story of Holes, Stanley he was pretty shy, right? He was very uncertain. I'm going to write that down. He was kind of shy. He was a little bit weak. He wasn't very strong as far as like his physical ability. So those are some things that are really, really interesting. He is willing to like compromise a lot, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a different thing. He's willing to do a lot of compromising, especially when he gives the little gold tube to X-ray. But then later on, it's a little bit different. Okay. Stanley says, "My name's Caveman." So he really is like fitting into this idea of like, oh, now I belong here. I have this nickname. My name's Caveman. So we see that right here, which is really, really interesting. And then he gets a letter from his mom. And he doesn't really fight it when they say like, oh, it's from his girlfriend. He reads it after the boys had gone to supper. And then he has this conversation with Zero that's pretty interesting where he asks like, did you ever watch Sesame Street? And Zero's like, and I think that's something we need to start to think about with Zero is there's some things about Zero that are a little mysterious. So the boys are continuing to dig, okay? And the warden is becoming less patient and less patient and less patient. And you know what? That's another way that the warden is changing too. So Stanley started out as sort of uncertain, shy, weak, and he did a lot of compromising. But towards the end, he is caveman. He's a little bit more, I don't know. I want to say like he's stronger. So if that's the way that Stanley has changed, then there's also going to be some ways that the warden has changed. So at the beginning, the warden is like very polite. She is stern, but she like wants to give everybody water and that kind of thing. But as the story goes on, especially in this page, in page 34, she's like starting to get a little bit crazy. Like she jabbed armpit with her pitchfork. So like right here, it says she jabbed him with her pitchfork. She says, you're giving them too much water. So she started out as just kind of like polite and firm, but now she's a little bit violent. She's a little bit crazy. Like she's kind of gone off the wall. Stabbing someone with your pitchfork, that isn't cool. Okay, that's not okay. So those are some ways that the warden is changing as well. Okay. The boys are digging. Zigzag's collapsing. There's all kinds of things happening. Okay. They are eventually marched to a different section of the lake. But he got hit with Zigzag's shovel. And then he writes a letter, but he really just like straight up lies to his mom, right? So in the letter, he says like, oh, I'm fine. Like he is pretending to be stronger than he actually is. He says, we're doing all kinds of things. We are doing water skiing. We're learning how to swim on the lake. And then toward the end of the chapter, Zero says, hey, I don't know how to read. And Stanley's like, I'm not going to do that. And it's interesting because I wonder if Stanley at the beginning would have taught him. Like, it's just an interesting comparison. And then here's the other thing. This is a really, really, really big comparison I want you to note. On the very end of chapter 19, it says, or chapter 18, his muscles and hands weren't the only part of his body that had toughened over the past several weeks. His heart had hardened as well. So Stanley's heart was like, he was sort of soft-hearted, right? And now he's sort of hardening, like he's getting sort of calloused. So that's some really clear examples that we can see of the ways that characters have changed over time. Characters changing isn't neutral, like it's not good or bad, it's neutral, but it's something that we do want to keep an eye on as far as Stanley's concerned, because I think it's going to give us some clues about what's going to happen in the future. All right. The next couple chapters that you're going to read are going to be chapters 19 through 20, I believe 23. 24, 19 through 24. There's a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind. Cause and effect, really, really important at this point, and simile and metaphor. So while you're reading, I want you to be looking for causes and effects and similes and metaphors. If you don't remember what similes and metaphors are, that's a comparison between two things. Similes use like and as, but metaphors don't. But yeah, and be looking for cause and effect. You look for those clue words. So look for as a result or because or those kind of things. Okay. Yeah. I hope that you're doing okay. Keep trucking along. Keep reading. I'm really proud of you. And I will see you later. Maybe if I can get this to pause.